Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where I've entitled it Ice Sheets and Fundraiser. We did sponsor a fundraiser here at the Wolf Center on March 21st, Saturday night. We had a great turnout, and we really appreciate the donors and the supporters who came here to help us raise funds for this addition to the Wolf Lab that we've been kind of talking about. We're certainly trying to get ourselves situated for the 2016 pups, but we're also trying to look long term at what we can do in this facility to help manage our older wolves a little bit better. And so that went on Saturday night, and we also have an online auction that is still going on till Friday, and so that will be we'll link that in the YouTube later on, but you can also check that out on our Facebook page at the International Wolf Center Facebook page, and there'll be a link to that online auction if you're interested in participating in that. So this time of the year, we are in a situation of a lot of snowmelt, and that snowmelt tends to congregate in the pond. And so what you're seeing here is Luna, who's actively investigating these sheets of ice. And what is essentially happening is the frost had gone out, and that left these sheets kind of high and dry. And so these large, massive sheets of ice on the edge of the pond were certainly something worth investigating for Luna. And so as the water dropped, the sheets broke, and she's trying to grab those sheets of ice from the edge of the pond. So it was a great stimulus. So for us, we're just happy that the frost went out and the snow melted, because this pond water is a bit disgusting. It's got a lot of deer hair, a lot of bloody snow and various things in it. So for wolf care staff, we're just happy to see it go, and makes it easier for us. But what the end result is when it finally does drain and all the water's gone, are these massive sheets of ice, and those are good stimulus for the wolves, and they're certainly something that Luna was pretty occupied with. So anything that's a possibility for Luna to investigate is going to be worth her viewing. So she's breaking apart pieces of ice, and certainly having an opportunity to smell various scents and things that were part of that ice. So Luna, like I said, is probably the most investigative wolf that we have here, certainly the most predatory. And as we watch her in the pond, she is got pretty good footing. I mean, she certainly, that back right leg certainly got some weaknesses, but she can manage quite well, actually. So it's kind of a soft step there as the ice is still kind of settling, but she definitely can manage quite well. And not only the ice, but she seems to manage feeding programs as well. We see Luna continuing to dominate feeding programs and be able to control the carcass and sleep on the carcass, and certainly keep the other wolves, and including Denali, who is a 130-some pound male, off of the carcass, and that goes on for days. So we have been having to work with her and distracting her so that the other males can get a chance to guard it, possess it, and drag it. So she's pretty tenacious when it comes to that kind of thing. But like I said, this is probably a little bit of that stronger predatory drive that makes her more likely to be willing to cache food, willing to guard food, willing to possess food, is probably the same thing that's driving her interest in investigating in the pond. And so, like I said, it's not going to last very long. This pond is dark, and as the sun melts this ice, it's going to be a short-lived investigation. So, like I said, she's having a pretty good time with it, grabbing sheets of ice, trying to do a little bit of that, what we call stiff leg jump, but you can see here a little tenuous in the footing. So certainly that's something that we were glad that they were just investigating and not necessarily running and getting too excited in it. So that's kind of what the look of the pond looks like now. Here's Aiden coming down on the right-hand side there. Curious, but certainly not getting involved. Again, Luna continues to possess things, even if it is just chunks of ice, and so it's easier for the other wolves to stay off of it while Luna's investigating. So you can see how slippery it is, and certainly, like I said, we were glad that it was short-lived. As soon as the sun hit that dark concrete, it melted. So here's Aiden. He's going to try to come in for a little bit of investigation, and Luna is Aiden's a little more sure-footed, and certainly a little more cautious about coming in. Luna, not quite so much. The other thing we've been observing with Luna is that she's been doing a fair amount of, when she possesses the carcass, she'll actually take hide, even after the carcass is gone, and she takes hide and she walks over to another wolf, and even if they're not showing interest in her, she'll actually walk over that hide and she'll stand in front of them and growl at them and possess them, or be possessive about it. Even if they didn't approach her, she'll approach them. That's very reminiscent of Lucas. Years ago, we had a wolf named Lucas in 1993 litter, who, if the other wolves weren't paying attention to him, he would pick up a deer head, walk over, drop it in front of them, and growl at them and possess it, and then pick it up and walk it away. And so it is kind of reminiscent of that, and certainly those of us who have been here, myself, I started with the Wolf Center in 1989, so I know the 93 litter as well as the 89 litter, the 2000 litter, 2004, 2008, 2012. They all have their own personalities. Every wolf is different, and so the dynamics of every wolf exhibit is different. So like I say, this pond thing was more entertaining for the young ones than it was for the older ones, and that's pretty classic. You know, older wolves, they've been through it. You know, when they were young, they probably were stimulated, but it's just easier to stay out of it, and certainly, you know, not any reason that they wouldn't be involved. It's just that it's, you know, it's not as stimulating for an older wolf, and so they'll lay along the edge and watch it. And where Luna is right now, that's the drain, and so that's where the water's going. So all of that ice just collapsed, and underneath that is a sheet of water that's draining out of the pond. And certainly that sound of draining water, there's kind of a suction sound that's very stimulating. So there's Bolts. He's trying to do the same kind of thing, paw and investigate that sound as well as that water that's flowing out of the bottom of the pond. And it's slippery. Like I say, it's definitely not an easy task. These guys aren't like cats where they have real, retractable claws where they can kind of grab onto anything. And there's Denali, like I say, just staying out of it. And Denali is one of those, every time everyone sees Denali, they just think he's big and he would be, in charge, or he would be in control of things. Denali is definitely the better the term gentle giant is a good way to describe him. He is the biggest wolf we've ever had, yet he is the most timid when it comes to conflict, unless it involves food. Then he really likes to try to get resources, obviously. But for the most part, he's very docile, very social, very engaging, and you will find he and Aiden, like I said, going on 7, on April 27th is Aiden and Denali's birthday. 7 years old is, is old for wolf, and so they're going to take advantage of these warm spring sun, and they're going to rest in that sun. Actually, after the ice melted, I saw Aiden laying on the black concrete, which was obviously absorbing a lot of heat in the pond. So these older bones typically will like to lay and rest in this cover hay that we have left over from the winter time. So that's Aiden, and then over to Denali. So while the young ones are chewing on the ice and investigating and dragging things around, the old ones are just soaking up the Z's. It feels pretty good on their body. So that's kind of what's going on. So like I say, we had a great fundraiser. We are still having some items online for the next week. Luna's birthday is coming up. If anyone's interested, March 25th is Luna's birthday. And then Grizzer's is going to be May. We may have to move his birthday webinar. Just a few logistical things with Grizzer, but he's doing quite well. Like I said, his pond is already drained. We don't have the issue with the ice buildup in his pond. It's a very short drain, so it never really freezes. But Grizzer's got a lot of hay as well, and a lot of work for working for wolves, but he's doing quite well. He's content. He's very actively monitoring what the other wolves do. And like I said, Aiden and Denali kind of resting quite a bit. Bolts had a birthday, lost his birthday cow leg to Luna, who is shown here eating it. And we know that Luna's birthday on March 25th, we're certain she will get her birthday present, even though Bolts didn't get his on March 17th. So that's it for the YouTube this week. So again, thanks for watching, and if you get a chance to support our online fundraiser, we'd be very appreciative. Have a good night.